Hello everyone, this is Tom Fox. I'm the Compliance Evangelist, and I'd like to welcome you to June's podcast series on 1 month to better investigations and internal reportings. So what do you do when the call, the email, or the personal tip comes into your office where an employee reports suspicious activity somewhere literally across the globe? That activity might well turn into a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act issue for your company. In today's climate, it can turn into issues under lots of different anti-corruption jurisdictions. The Brazilian Clean Companies Act, the UK Bribery Act, or even domestic anti-corruption laws, such as brought GSK to bear in China. As the Chief Compliance Officer, it will be up to you to begin the process, which will determine, in many instances, how your company will respond going forward and will set the tone throughout this most difficult period. This month's podcast series will provide to you all the steps you need to consider going forward. You want to take a look at independent versus in-house investigations, investigation protocols, the different resources that a compliance practitioner may bring to bear in an investigation, such as internal audit, IT, and legal. And I'll take a look at special issues such as privilege, Upjohn and Miranda warnings, data privacy, and of course, the Yates memo and its effect. I think you will learn a lot this month if you follow this podcast series. This is Tom Fox. Thank you very much for listening to the June podcast series. Day 9, the investigation team. Beginning with the Department of Justice's Yates memo and the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act's pilots program, and then continuing with the February 2016 release of the Evaluation of Corporate Compliance Programs, I believe the Department of Justice has put even more pressure on every Chief Compliance Officer and indeed every company to get an investigation done more quickly, more efficiently, and more importantly, get it done right. So today I want to consider who should be on your investigation team. Certainly you want your investigation team to be risk-focused and not boil the ocean. It may start off by requiring you to obtain documents so you know who to interview and why. Some of the groups within the corporation that you may make use of include human resources, internal audit, IT, compliance, legal, crisis management. If you have the compliance function that's separated from internal audit of the General Counsel's office, then legal department, senior management, and the board of directors. And certainly at some point outside consultants, whether they be forensic accountants or other types of professionals, could be involved in the investigation. Data collection, data retention, and data preservation are critical elements of any significant internal investigation, so you will need to have the involvement of your IT function. IT can help you put a litigation hold on emails that can help with the preservation of data in other areas of the organization. They can help with other items that will come up during the investigation as well. Human resources is often an underutilized function for the internal investigator. HR can be very useful to provide an employee's work history and really the context of that work history. There could be notes in HR areas as diverse as training and exit interviews if the employee's left the company. HR can also be useful to an investigator to provide some insight regarding the credibility of the individual that might be making an allegation. For instance, are they a good and trusted employee? How long have they been there? What's their general demeanor? What's been the feedback on the particular individual? What do their annual reviews look like? Both the board and senior management can provide different types of support for an investigation. The board has oversight responsibility, and senior management is responsible for day-to-day tactical operations of the company, including internal controls. This means from the board's perspective, we'd want to make sure the governance process is in place and operating efficiently when it comes to investigation. So the other things that a board might want to know are what's the financial impact? What's the legal impact for a publicly traded company? Are there potential issues which the board will need to be concerned with going forward? What about reputational issues? How is that going to play out? How's it going to play out within your industry? From the senior management's perspective, the key thing here is was there the ability to override internal controls, or were there controls that were not in place that could have caused this, and is this something that needs to be assessed? Do they need to be fixed? What was the root cause for the potential bad behavior? How do we fix, or how do we put a plan together in order to fix that or shore it up? This is not the board's responsibility at this tactical level, but really that of senior management. An investigator would probably assume the board has been notified at this point, but I would urge you to do more than simply assume. You may make that inquiry yourself. So investigators need to make certain that a board has been aware of significant incidents and investigations. Outside consultants in the form of forensic accountants should be a part of your investigation team. Such a skilled set of team members can bring an investigative mind that drives them to answer questions about what has occurred, when and how it happened, and who was involved. Most lawyers do not understand how forensic accounting is performed, and they can assist in this compliance investigation going forward. And I would simply add that they have a different way of looking at things. So lawyers certainly have training in one direction, and we're very good at investigations if properly trained, but forensic accountants take a look at it from a different perspective. So it's always helpful to have that type of perspective in a significant investigation involving outside counsel or an external investigation. Forensic auditing works to collect and analyze accounting and internal control evidence. They use this evidence to produce a fact-based report that can inform the decision-making process in inquiries, investigations, and dispute resolutions. The byproduct of internal auditors' work can include remediation strategies to help a company mitigate and remediate procedural or internal control gaps that allowed the underlying issues to occur. Inquiries in accounting and internal controls raise a host of technical issues requiring specialized knowledge that forensic accountants are uniquely suited to provide. There's a qualitative difference from internal audit, which often looks at the process to determine if it has been adhered to in a set procedure. The objective of forensic audit investigation team is to collect, analyze, and report on evidence or facts surrounding an act that may have litigious or criminal implications for a company. Auditors also collect and analyze evidence, but an independent auditor's objective is to attest to the credibility of assertions that are under examination, such as the material accuracy of financial statements for which the audited company's management is responsible. However, a key role of the forensic accountant is to identify a concern and notify the company management about the issues discovered. As with a decision on bringing in outside counsel to perform a compliance investigation, we'll need to consider whether a forensic accountant should be retained by outside consultant or hired as an employee. One critical reason to bring an outside professional in is so that they will not be governed by management or influenced by biases within the company. Of course, there's the issue of privilege. If a forensic accountant is not assigned through your legal department or through outside counsel, you can kiss away any chance of claiming privilege. This obviously leads to the general counsel, who needs to be involved to help protect the attorney-client privilege. If for no other reason, they could certainly be the person who starts the investigation. Further, investigations need to have a corporate compliance function involved to understand what compliance program was in place at the time of the incident in question, what procedures the compliance function had, and understand if there was truly a gap in the compliance function, or maybe an area which the compliance function wasn't operating as prescribed, or indeed maybe even a little weak. So what are the three key takeaways? Number one, human resources plays a key but often underutilized role in high-profile internal investigations. You can really get some good insight from HR about the complainants, about the people involved, about the potential witnesses, and potential nefarious parties. Two, remember the board of directors and senior management really have different roles. And so the board should have a much more broad oversight role. But if there's going to be significant financial restatements, or other issues, the board needs to have that information pretty quickly. Senior management's going to be more tactical. They're going to look at was there a control failure, was there a control override, or were the controls even in place? And finally, number three, never forget to use counsel to protect the privilege. You can always waive the privilege later. You can always give the government your report in trying to fulfill the requirements of the Yates memo and the pilot program, but if you don't start off with the privilege, you will never have it going forward. So this is Tom Fox. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope you will join me tomorrow where I'm going to take a look at some investigative challenges. This is Tom Fox again. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you have listened to this podcast on iTunes, I would greatly appreciate it if you would rate the podcast, as it would help in our rankings and also help get the word out about the only 1-month podcast series to a better compliance program. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. You can reach me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. This is Tom Fox. Thank you very much again for listening, and I hope you'll join me again for 1 month to better investigations and